Hello, everybody. Welcome to Rewind and Reflect, where we believe in the universal truth that there's no such thing as coincidences or mistakes. And we're here to share our life experience on that with you. My name is Deb Miller.
Morning, ladies. My name is Kristen Longmore.
Hi, everybody. Susan Doyle, and we have a very special guest today. But I just have to say, I feel so Debbie was on a real podcast a couple of days ago, like professional, like somebody who used to be in the news in our area when we were growing up. And I am coming to you. If you listen, I'm coming to you with wet hair. I just got out of the shower because I taught 3 classes this morning and I'm really tired and I didn't feel like coming sweaty. So here I am. And I'm trying not to touch my hair because if I touch it, the curls will get all yucky.
Well, you look fab.
You look beautiful.
But thank you. I do. Thank you. I don't feel fabulous. But at least I feel clean.
You're clean, yes. Good.
Right?
No curl twisting. It's a habit. I do
I
it
know
too.
it's so hard not to do that. So you have curly hair, and our guest Michelle has curly hair, and it's like all I want to do is just do this to it. But you really can't touch it because then it gets all frizzy and big and
no touchy.
Flyaways. No touchy.
I know.
I'll touch my hair for all of you guys.
How dare you?
You have always had the best head of hair. Always.
I don't know how.
Right, Michelle? Always.
Yes.
She had iconic hair, like Farrah Fawcett would have iconic hair. Yes.
Feathered hair.
Feathered hair.
You had the feather, you had the bang, you had the it was always good hair.
My feather was like always a little curl alongside. Sue, you probably tried to do this, Michelle too. Like you try to feather your hair and all it would do was like it would form like this little big large ringlet looked like a poop.
Or it was just like a big bulb.
Yeah.
Yeah. Michelle, did you ever have your hair longer?
Wait, let's introduce Michelle first, formally.
All right, sorry. So everybody, this is Michelle Duprey. Debbie and I know Michelle from school, from way back, I think maybe 6th grade, 6th or 7th grade. Because as we've spoken about before, the 2 elementary schools in Avon would come together in one middle school, and then we would go on to high school. So Michelle reached out to Deb and I a couple of weeks ago because I'm very jealous. She's getting ready to retire, and she just kind of wanted to pick our brains more, definitely Debbie did, because she wrote a book and things like that. And she's going on to the next chapter of our lives, of her life. And it brought me back, and I was so excited to see her because we really have not connected since we graduated, or maybe one reunion, maybe. I don't even remember if we even talked about that the other day.
We did.
Michelle
our 5th year, our 10th year reunion, we saw each other.
So Michelle is a deputy corporation counsel for the city of New Haven. So she's a lawyer. And when I got on the phone with the 3 of us a couple of weeks ago, so this is my first meeting with Michelle back in the day. So welcome, Michelle. Thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me.
And thanks for reaching out. But I want everybody to know that this is the first time I met Michelle. I think it was 6th or 7th grade. Please, first of all, the only way I know it is brittle bone disease, but please tell the audience the condition that you were born with.
It's called Osteogenesis Imperfecta. It's commonly known as brittle bone disease, but it's a defect in collagen.
Okay. So, this was, let's see, really late 1970s, maybe 80 perhaps. And I remember it like it was yesterday. We were in science. I think we were in science class, right? Back with like the black lab tables. And in comes Michelle with a cast on both legs from her waist down and a rod going in between her legs on a flatbed being pulled on a rope so she could come to class. And I was like, who is this person? And from that day forward, not a single thing ever stopped her from doing anything. So when Michelle reached out and we were talking, and I'm like, you have such an amazing story to tell. Because please correct me if I'm wrong, Michelle, and maybe this is, Avon myth or whatever, folklore. Your life expectancy wasn't much past 20 or 25. Is that correct?
Well, when I was born with 23 broken bones. And doctors told my parents at that time that I'd probably only live a couple weeks. And if I lived longer, I'd be in a bed the rest of my life.
Wow.
My parents, and that was by Boston Children's Hospital in Boston.
I have a question before you go any further.
Yes.
I always have questions.
I
know. Did they know ahead of time prenatal that something was wrong? No. So, okay.
No, they didn't.
Well, because I don't even know if there was sonograms back then.
No.
I don't think there was I don't think there was ultrasound back then. People just had babies.
Oh, is
like
that
they
right?
just came out.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I didn't know that. All right. So they didn't
We were
know.
born in the dark ages.
And you had a brother, an older brother or younger brother?
I have a stepbrother, and he's because my parents remarried.
Okay.
He's the son of my stepfather.
Stepfather. Okay. All right. So continue on. So here you are born, and the doctor's like, "Oh no, she's got this."
They sent me home on a board with foam on it, and my mother and father took me. They lived in Manchester, and they took me home. And I think the local pediatrician said, try taking her to Yale. So they did. Yale New Haven Hospital is the fourth largest hospital in the country now. Back then, it was probably equally as prestigious. And my parents took me there, and the doctor had seen cases of osteogenesis imperfecta and put me in traction, said she'll do okay. The previous diagnosis is probably wrong. And so they treated me for a number of years. And then I had care at Millington Children's Hospital, which is now Connecticut Children's. And so the disability primarily is mostly when you're a young child, you have lots of broken bones. And so what Sue remembers is after I had leg surgery, a lot of times to treat those broken bones, they put rods inside the bone so that it stabilizes it and prevents even worse fractures going down the road. So I've had many instances of those types of casts where it's from the chest down on both legs post-surgery, although they don't often do that anymore. I had one of the rods switched out 2 years ago, and I had no cast.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so
well, that's improvement.
Thank God for medical improvements.
How come most of the breaks, Michelle, happen when you're so young? What is that a function? Because your bones are growing, or is it, what is that?
They're forming, they're growing, they're changing. It also picks up for a lot of people when they get to menopause, for women. Anyway.
Yep. Okay. All right. That was another question I had. Okay.
Fucking menopause.
Hate it.
So, Michelle is the type of person that never took no for an answer. Just kept, like eye on the prize, kept moving forward, was in the thick of everything. And so, Michelle, I have some questions for you. Like, I guess, I'm going to make the assumption that it had to do with the way that you were raised. I mean, your parents, I know your parents split up. I don't know how old you were. I mean, I know that you're very close to your stepfather. It had to have come at that age from an external source. Can you tell me about like what your parents used to say to you? Or, I remember, and I'll stop talking in a minute, but I remember a kid in Avon who was born with Down syndrome. And his mother was told, well, like, you can take him home, but he's going to be in an institution. And he lived to well over 60. And she was like a really strong advocate and pioneer in that space where he got a driver's license. He went to work. And she was never able to live on his own, but she was just such an amazing person that instilled this in her family. And I'm wondering, like, what your mom and dad or mom and stepdad would say to you or instill in you to just don't take no for an answer.
I think for my parents, the thing I remember most is they expected me to do all the things that everybody else's parents expect them to do. Particularly in our community that we grew up in, it was pretty expected that we would go to college and pursue a career. I never got the sense that they thought I couldn't do that because of my disability, even though they probably easily could have, and no one would question them for that. Really recently found out that my mother didn't know at the time when she dropped me off at college if I could actually do it. And she was kind of scared to death, I think, a little bit by that. And of course, I loved college and had more fun than any one person should have. So, so I think a lot of it was testing for them. They just marched forward and tried to give me the skills to navigate. My dad both sides of my family have great senses of humor. They're all career oriented. So it was kind of easy to have those goals and to move forward. I think some pivotal points were even friends. Like you may remember Lori Wilkie in high school. I must have been lamenting about not having anything to do and feeling kind of excluded. And she ended up going to the teacher and asking if I could manage the track team.
I remember that.
Oh, I remember that.
Sweet.
And the track coach said, sure. And then I went on to manage the field hockey team and the swim team because it got the ball rolling, but it wasn't my parents as much as, a close friend that saw an opportunity and saw potential. And so
I love that.
that helps because a lot of kids with disabilities don't look for ways that even with their limitation can participate.
Well, so. I too was the manager for a few sports teams in high school, but it was purely because I hated exercising and I was very lazy. It had nothing to do with the disability.
You managed those soccer guys, right? I love
soccer and tennis.
Yeah, you know what? I mean, Debbie
wherever
always
my
chose
boyfriend was. That's where I was.
Debbie always chose the boy teams.
The hot guys.
Wonder why.
Well, it was only the ones that my boyfriend was on, but it was purely because I just hated to exercise so much that I was like, but I wanted to be part of that. So I love that. I need to ask you a question going backwards. And, when you were that age, younger, and even into your older self, like I'm really into mental health and, I suffer from depression. And how did you ever, how was your mental health all those years? Like, did you have any issues?
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Yes. And definitely high school was really rough for me.
I would have never known that. I would have never known that. Let me just say, because you always participate. You were always the one that was getting dressed up for those school events where we, what is that called when we, before a game or
pep
whatever.
Rally.
The
school
pep rallies. Spirit week. You were always like at the parties and doing the things and getting dressed up. I would have never known that you had a hard time. You seemed like you were having the time of your life.
Yeah, no, I didn't find it easy. And a lot of it is, as an adult, I kind of fake it until you make it kind of thing. But it was very difficult in high school. And then after I graduated law school, I had some challenges because finding an employer that would hire me was really tough. And that's why I started my own practice, because I couldn't find an opportunity and a place to go.
Was
So
it discriminatory? Like, how could you not find a place?
probably a lot of law firms. It was funny because there'd be no clue in my resume that I had a disability, and I'd show up for an interview, and it was like deer in the headlights. And I got discriminatory questions in interviews, and I've gotten discriminatory questions in interviews. The last one I got was in 2018. So they still happen.
What are some of those questions, Michelle? If you don't mind me asking, would you be willing to share what?
Yeah, sure. I got asked, do you drive? How do you get here? Things that you wouldn't ask anybody else in an
That's
interview.
right.
Yep.
No, you wouldn't. You would not ask that question.
Yeah.
I've got asked questions about fatigue and stamina. I've gotten asked about medications I take. Those are all illegal things.
Oh,
Mm-hmm.
wow.
That's crazy.
And you're always at the point where, do I answer and possibly have the answer be held against me, or do I not answer and say, that's an illegal question, I'm not going to answer it, and then you're not going to get the job.
So what did you do?
What did you do?
Hold on. I'm just going to guess that she did the second rather than the first.
Yeah.
Knowing what I know about Michelle, she probably said, you might want to check that question.
Well, I have prefaced several of them by saying, because they always say, well, I don't know if I could ask you this, which if they're going to start with that.
If you have to say that before the question, you shouldn't be asking it.
You shouldn't be asking it, exactly. And I would say, well, that's a question you are allowed to ask as long as you ask everybody you interview that same question. So I give them an out a little bit, and frame it in the context of what the legal requirement is. So they can ask everybody if they drive, but they can't just ask the disabled people if they drive. So, but I did answer a lot of those questions. Truthfully, I figured, well, it really was at a point. One of the questions was for a state position, and I figured if I pushed back on the law and refused to answer, it would jeopardize that position, but might affect any future opportunities. So I did answer it. But I also got ready in case I needed to do something about it.
Wow.
So anyway.
So how did that how did that hard time show up for you, manifest for you? Like, did you, Debbie asked the question, my next question to you was going to be, did you ever get the poor me's?
Oh yeah, you definitely, I think part of anybody's life has moments of self-pity for whatever it's,
I agree with you.
Challenges that we face. And I do get those. And I get them even today. I know that today or, last week I had a day with lots of aches and pains. And so I would feel a little bad for myself, but then I'm like, it's not going to help you to feel bad for yourself. So I get through
so what
it.
do you say to yourself, or what are your practices to get yourself out of that?
I try to not dwell on it and just see each day as a new day to do better or to get out of that funk, because spending time in that kind of funk long term is really devastating for your overall well-being. I have had times where it's been prolonged and difficult, and I end up sleeping a lot and not eating well. And I have used medication a couple of times in the past to alleviate the symptoms. And once I got better, stopped the medication and went on my merry way. But I think it's recognizing when you're in that space and when it's not just a passing, um, you know, situation, that it's really gets a grips on you, that you need to seek assistance from somebody else.
Kristen, you had a
Has that
question?
gotten fewer and farther between as you get older?
Yeah, I would say so. I'd say the last time I really got in a bad spot was after in 2016, I fell out of my wheelchair and had 9 fractures.
Oh.
And that recovery was the most difficult recovery I've had in my life that I can remember. And getting back to normal was challenging. And it ended up that my doctor released me to go back to work part-time, probably quicker than anybody else would, because he knew I needed that for my mental health. So,
Kristen, did you have a question?
So I'm curious, Michelle, like we talk a lot in AA about having a support network. So who are you talked about Lori from high school, which I think is just a lovely story. That's an example of someone who would be in your circle and like a support to you and an advocate and someone, like we like to say, that you would let sit at your table. Who are do you have a strong support network of friends, family, whoever in your life today?
Yeah, I have a really good support network. I have friends that have been friends, Lori is still a close friend. Friends from high school, my friend Julie, friends from after high school, coworkers. I'm a pretty social person, so that part hasn't been difficult. I think for a lot of people with disabilities, the people that have social barriers because of their disability or they're just shy, I think that road is harder. But my father was very outgoing, and I clearly got that from him. I just think that I've been fortunate that I got that trait from dad, and still am able to interact with some great people that have been awesome helps. And when I've had issues, then it's as an adult, people are bringing over food, sending flowers, and so I think, but you also have to remember that it's a two-way street. You have to be that kind of support for the people in your life that support you. So I try to be mindful of not let it be a one-way street.
I have two questions for you. One, this is a two-part question. I have way more than 2 questions for you, but this right here is a 2-part question. How many breaks have you had, bone breaks, and how many surgeries? That I have a 3-part question. Those are 2 of the 3.
Good Lord.
Okay. So I've had over 200 fractures, but I don't know how many.
Okay, over 200.
So I was born with 23, and I had in 2016 9, so that's already a big chunk right there. I had lots of fractures, and I break ribs periodically. And I broke my leg earlier this year. I didn't know it until I went for routine x-rays.
Wow.
And hadn't had a stress fracture. And, the doctor and I had a conversation about if a tree falls in the woods and no one's around to hear it, does it make a noise? And it's kind of like that. If I hadn't gotten the routine x-rays, would I have ever known I broke my leg? And maybe not. So
that kind of walks. Okay, so in surgeries, do you know how many surgeries you've had?
I think it's about 30, 31 around there. So
obviously they put you on pain medication when you break things and you are in surgery?
Not really.
I mean, do you, because of the brittle bone disease, like, do they not hurt as much? I mean, like you said, you broke your leg and you didn't even know. So, I mean, are you in a lot of pain when something like that happens?
No, I had no pain. I had a lot of pain when I fell, obviously. But I have significant problems with pain medication making me violently ill.
Oh, okay.
So
That was my other thing. Like,
so a lot of times I am prescribed, like when I broke my hip in 2015, all they gave me was regular Tylenol. And but I have a really high pain tolerance, and I don't know if it's because of my nature, if it's just I'm used to it, or if my nerves don't work so well. But when I broke my hip, I asked if while I was waiting for surgery, while they figured out how they could fix it, I asked if I could sit in a chair because I don't like laying down. And the doctor came in and said, I've never had anybody ask if they can sit in the chair. And I'm like, well, I don't care if no one's ever asked for it. I'm asking for it. So, they allowed me to get up and sit in the chair. And he came by to like see if it was real, if I really did it.
Yeah.
And I thought it was great. But anyway, so I think I recognize that my pain level is different than other people's. I know I was in a meeting once and we had somebody on workers' comp with a broken toe and they needed 12 weeks off for a broken toe. And I'm like, I wouldn't even take a long lunch.
Yeah.
Toe.
Oh my gosh. Well, I love that because I was just thinking to myself, oh my gosh, if I was breaking as many bones as she was, the pain medication would that would be a real problem for me. But you were like, no, it makes me sick and I'm not going to do it. And that's amazing.
I have taken there's one pain medication that was able to help, and it's like a low level pain medication. It didn't make me as sick, but I did after 10 weeks of taking it, and they still told me that I could, when I didn't have any pain, I could stop taking it. And I had withdrawal symptoms.
Oh, wow.
And I was like,
those aren't fun.
I know. And I said to my doctor, I appreciate why people get addicted to these, because just in the couple hours that I was feeling really crappy because I hadn't taken any.
Yeah.
And they ended up tapering my dose, which solved the problem, but it was noticeable.
Well,
and I know exactly.
Thank God that that's not one other thing that you'd have to deal with is, becoming
crap.
becoming
Michelle,
dependent on those.
Who and or what inspires you? So I think for me personally that you must be a silent and active inspiration for a lot of people. Who inspires you or what inspires you?
Well, inspiration is really a difficult topic in the disability community because there's this disability advocate, Stella Young, that did a presentation and a TED Talk in 2024 about I'm not your inspiration. And she talks about just getting out of bed shouldn't be inspiring to people. So I've always grappled with that and really have not been comfortable with that role. But I also find people inspiring, whether it's people that work to protect things I care about, disability advocates that I know that share similar dedication despite particular odds against them. So my uncomfort with that label is somewhat tempered by my own admiration of other people. And, whether it's Tammy Duckworth, who's a senator, who uses a wheelchair, a veteran, or regular people, Michelle Obama, or they keep me inspired to do more, to get out, to keep moving forward. That helps a lot.
It's funny that you say that, because Hunter, my son, has the same thing. He's like, I don't want to be anybody's inspiration. It can be a lot of pressure sometimes too. It's like, I just want to live my life, and not have people.
And disability is part of most people's lives. Debbie, as a person in recovery, you are a person with a disability under federal statute. So,
I didn't know that. Can I get some benefits, please? Who do I ask for some?
Is there any money lying around?
Money. Yeah.
There's no money in disability.
I didn't know that, Michelle.
I did not know that.
People in recovery are considered disabled under the Americans with Disabilities Act.
Wow.
That is so.
Well, is it because it was forgive me, Debbie and Kristen. What is the disease called? Is it because it was defined?
Addiction disorder.
Yeah, it's substance use disorder.
Yeah, so the law protects people in recovery from employment discrimination.
Yes, losing their job. Okay. Yes, I did know that.
Yeah.
Okay, that makes sense.
But you have to, and places like New Haven, we have sober houses. And so we have to adjust some requirements of the city to allow sober houses to open and operate. And so ironically, that was a lot of my job when I was disability services director, was dealing with sober houses.
That's so
cool. I didn't know that. Great. Okay.
So Michelle, I was in the sign business for 12 years. My ex-husband's father and my ex-husband both owned sign businesses. And my ex-husband took the portion, he started his own business in the late 90s, and he took basically the ADA signage portion of his father's sign business, which I will never forget. I installed many signs with Braille, and it was, 60 inches to center on the door latch side. And I remember learning about that and going, why is this? And they would say to me, well, Kristen, someone in a wheelchair, right? They can't be reaching way up here to read the Braille, right?
Yeah.
But I always was interested in that. Like, I love that you represent people from an ADA stance. So, I don't know if you can share something, a poignant experience on that in your practice as an attorney, or.
Well, ADA kind of infuses my whole life, not necessarily intentionally. When I go places, I'm looking at the ramp. Is it wide enough? Is the door wide enough? Can I get a wheelchair in? Is there Braille? Is there, I'm always internally looking at that stuff. And in the past, I've filed complaints personally related to ADA. Probably the most famous one was I filed a complaint regarding the Hartford Civic Center, which is the Excel Center maybe now. I don't know. But I went to a Bruce Springsteen conference, and no one in wheelchair seating could see over everybody standing.
Oh, that's a bummer. Yeah.
So I missed large parts of the concert because I couldn't really see. And it ended up that it took us like 4 years, but we resolved it. And the Civic Center made pretty significant improvements
that's
because of it. So,
Yeah, they
I
put the
also,
wheelchairs up, like the people down, are you're like above a little bit, right?
yes.
Like so
So you can
head.
so you can see over standing spectators,
So you
which
were
is
part
what
of
they,
that.
yes.
I love that. That's
Good
so
for
cool.
you. That's
Yay.
amazing.
So
I didn't get any Springsteen tickets out
I
of
was
it,
gonna
but
say, Bruce, come on.
I wrote
Show
him a
some
letter,
girls
but
some
I never
love.
heard anything.
Yeah.
That brings me to our next question
I
slash
have one
comment.
last question. I have
Okay.
one last question, and then we can go in a different direction. My last question to you, Michelle, would be what you're 60, right? 60?
I'll be
61?
60 in November.
Scorpio girl.
What? I know, huh? What would you tell your younger self?
I would tell my younger self that take the good with the bad because you're going to learn stuff even from the bad. And you're not going to get to the really good stuff unless you go through the bad, learn from it, and get to where you're supposed to go.
I love
That's
that.
amazing.
Amen. That's
amazing.
That's such good
Amen.
advice for all of us.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I wanted
So
to
from our
tell,
conversation, Debbie wants to go in a little bit of a different direction from our conversation a couple weeks ago.
well, it's something that irritated me, and I don't think it's right, and we need to do
Do tell.
something about it.
Okay.
Michelle
love
was
to get
telling us
irritated.
how, like, obviously you spent a minute or two in the hospital throughout the years, right?
Yeah.
And there's some serious gaps in the healthcare system. One of them being when you go to the hospital, like they don't have gowns that fit you. What really upset me was when after surgeries or whatever, if you have the compression things for your legs that we all get to make sure you don't get blood clots, like they don't have ones that fit you. I just find that so, I don't know, that just bothers me so much that,
Archaic.
yeah, that they just can't figure that out. Or, it's not like,
Especially since it's not your first time in the
right, like
hospital
it's
and
not,
it's not your first time in the same exact space.
Yeah.
and you're
I
not,
get,
and you're not the only one that has, a disability that they're not, you know, I don't, whatever size it is, regulation size of whatever your leg is, I mean, it's like, what is going on there and how can we help?
well, I think the healthcare industry is working on some of it, but I think there's a ways to go in how they serve people with disabilities in their healthcare systems. And, we often see ramps and things like that, but it took quite a long time for the Yale Physician Building to get exam tables that lowered to wheelchair height, so that you could transfer out of wheelchair. Now, it wasn't really a huge problem for me because I could figure out ways to make it all work. But there are people, I've lived my whole life with my disability. I'm very analytical. I walk in, I can say, all right, this is how we're going to solve this problem. But most people acquire their disability as they go through life. And the ability to problem solve or think of ways around things may not be fully developed because it's new to them. So, those are the people I think about. And I go for tests and they all they have is extra large gowns and I'm a 3 foot tall person, which really just I'm like, I gotta buy my own Johnny and bring it with me because it drives me nuts.
Of course it does.
But it's routine that somebody who is short stature not have appropriate sized equipment, but it also goes down to whether they've adjusted the medication for somebody your size. I've had significant problems with that.
Oh, that's right.
I have been given too much medication because they gave it for my age, not my actual physical size. I now ask every time I get a prescription, has this been adjusted?
Yeah.
And I've had doctors take the prescription back out of my hand and leave the room because they didn't.
But Michelle, you can advocate for yourself. There's other people that can't. And they're just going to trust the doctor. They're going to trust that things are done right. And that really, really bothers me.
That's the hard part for me because, I do advocate when I can. But if I advocated about everything, I'd have no time in my life for anything else.
No fun. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I think it truly is picking your battles, but it also is, having a wrongly dosed medication is something that you should be dying on the sword about. And, the Johnnies would be really nice to have, but, it's not a life or death situation. And I understand that. I mean, it's, it's,
Do you think it's like a thing, like Deb talked a few weeks ago to some clinicians at a rehab center. Do you think it's a case where that doctor took the pill bottle back from you, Michelle? Like, are they just not, they just don't know, or they're just not thinking? Like, we need to educate people on addiction and recovery and how to treat the addict, those that treat the addicted.
Well,
is it the same in your situation? They don't know, or?
I think some of it is just the pressure to get people in and out quickly. That's an economic pressure. They don't have time to think it through. And some of it is just they've never had a patient that they've had to worry about that they weigh 50 pounds.
Sure.
And they're 50 something years old. And some of it's familiarity. There's a few things going on. I don't think we do enough in medical education, whether it's radiologists, nurses, doctors, physical therapists. I don't think we do enough teaching about disability and people that design hospitals and decorate hospitals. You go into a doctor's office and there's nowhere to park a wheelchair. I'm like, how is that possible?
In this day and age.
Medical.
I agree with you, Michelle. I agree with you with the education thing, because as we have dedicated a lot of space here on this podcast, and we will dedicate more to menopause, because we're all there, right? We're all post, actually, which is very sad, but okay. And it comes to... Shut up,
it's not
Debbie.
so sad.
And no, it isn't sad. It's actually very liberating. But, I work with a lot of women on my side hustle. And it was even today, I was in class and, they're exchanging, what do you take to go to sleep? What do you take? And I am screaming at these women, take hormones.
Yes.
And what it boils down to is doctors, female doctors, do not get educated on menopause in medical school.
Yeah.
It's like one class, one time.
And that's only if you choose it. It's not, that's
right.
An elective.
Right. Yeah. And it's, I heard somebody, a healthcare or, more of like a women's wellness specialist say, and it's so true, 50% of the population in this country is women. 100% of that 50% is going to go through menopause. Like, get your shit together.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And it's the same thing. It's like, if you are going to the same doctor year over year and they're making that type of mistake, like, shame on them.
Yeah.
Like,
but I also
get
think
your shit together.
There's a community component to this. People with health conditions, whether it's addiction, whether it's MS or Parkinson's or any of its other acquired health problems that you might come across during the course of your life, in addition to those of us that are born with disabilities, need to learn how to advocate. There's lots of resources out there to help us to know what to advocate for. People just have to engage. First of all, people have to admit that they are a person with a disability. Because, you know, time and time again, I've had New Haven's emergency response team say, well, let's count all the disabled people in New Haven. And I said, you're never going to be able to do that because easily 40% are going to say, I'm not disabled. I just have a bad hip. Or I'm not disabled. I just can't see that well. Or he ain't right in the head. You know, those kinds of things.
I didn't know I was disabled until this
we
conversation.
wouldn't have said that. We're the disabled. So
yeah,
I mean,
so I think people need to know what their rights are, learn how to advocate, and say something. And
I think
that's
a great start is you have to educate, you know, there is this level of having to educate yourself as to what is available for you.
Yeah.
To be able to advocate and know what you're talking about.
And not just trust the medical, you know, personnel, because there's a lot that they have to learn too, you know. So if you have something specific that you're going through, you know, mental health for me or addiction or whatever, it's like I got to learn about that. I got to learn about it so I know what questions to ask my doctors.
Now every congressional jurisdiction in the country has what's called an independent living center. It's for people with disabilities to get resources. So anybody that has questions about how to advocate for themselves, that's the best place to start. There's a national directory to connect them with their local independent living council and call them.
Where do you find that? Is it just like, how do they get the information?
There's a national independent living center group, and it has a directory by state.
Okay, so they just Google that and they'll come up.
Yeah, National Independent Living Centers.
Okay, National Independent Living Centers.
That's cool.
That's great. That's a great resource to know about. So thank you. I know we're running against the clock, but this is amazing.
Well, even though you're uncomfortable with being an inspiration, I think, you know, and I have to tell you that I used to be uncomfortable with that too, but women come up to me and they're just like, it's just the way that you are is inspiring, Michelle. You know, it's just your positive attitude, the way you were raised, what you put out in the universe is just inspiring. And I'm sorry that, you know, I'm making you feel uncomfortable, but it's true. And really appreciate you coming on and sharing your story and how you know, get through the good times and the bad times. And we look forward to you writing that book.
Yes, thank you. Thank you so much for having me.
Retirement. We appreciate you being here.
Yes, thank you, everybody. And so we're gonna wrap this up. I'm still doing my speaking engagements, just kicked it off, and you can sign up to have me come to your facility or to your office or to your school or whatever, deblawlessmiller.com. And my book is One Little Pill. And you can find that at Amazon or barnesandnoble.com. And
if anybody listening has any questions, wants to reach out, has a topic, would like to get in touch with Michelle, it is rewindandreflectwithus@gmail.com. The and is spelled out. And till next time, ladies.
Namaste.
Take care.
Bye.
Bye.